Welcome to Our Voices, Our Stories, a video archive of gay men living in Western North Carolina. My name is Butch, and I thank you for being here. Our guest tonight is Alston, a friend, a colleague, and I'm really appreciative of you sharing with us tonight your story and your voice.
Thank you, and thank you for pursuing this project. There's nobody else is pursuing this, preserving the voices of gay men in Western North Carolina, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this, but to know at a primal level that it's happening.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's kick it off a little bit. Alston is from the area of Asheville his entire life. Tell me a little bit about growing up in Asheville and your experiences and what life was like for you in the younger years.
Yeah. Well, 28806 was always home until college and divinity school, at which time I was in between Fayetteville and Raleigh for undergrad, and then in Durham for divinity school. And this has always been home. I grew up in a traditional middle class family with my twin sister, and much of our formation together was formed, and I'd like to say we were raised on a padded church pew on Patton Avenue. So
at least it was padded, right?
That's right. At least it was padded, not so austere, which is what we heard from the pulpit. But so we were there Sundays and Wednesdays and every day of the week because we were there as participants in a Christian school. And so that shaped so much of our childhood. Mm-hmm. And then, it's like, Krista Tippett, when she on the radio show On Being, she always starts with, tell me about your childhood. Yeah. What happens in those years is really what forms us from the outset. So that place, for better and for worse, it established my Christian identity in baptism. It's the venue through which I pursued a calling to ministry, but I would spend and still spend, so much time responding to the good things from there as well as the things that I've tried to unlearn.
Yeah.
But I have had all my life an adoring family. I am at an age now where I am finding unexpected is not the right word, but newfound respect for parents.
How we grow.
Yeah, we do. And I see now that as someone who works a 9-to-5 job, how, my father was dedicated so many decades to the grocery business in produce, not because he was passionate about squash or zucchini, but because he cared about supporting a family.
Right.
And seeing how hard it is, how the challenge is to make ends meet on my own, and seeing that being done by my parents. And seeing love poured out after work. They're exhausted, but still here we are, 7 or 8 years old. So I think I reflect on my adolescence with a measure of, I see a measure of profundity now that I hadn't seen before. I certainly have things that challenged me growing up, but I see the glories too now in a way I don't think I would have before.
That's wonderful perspective. And such encouraging perspective from someone, because you're still young.
Yeah, I didn't expect to really start thinking this way until, I've always loved my parents. We have never had an antagonism that's, been too sharp for us to overcome. But yeah, seeing that now has been a little bit of a surprise. Welcome.
So how was it when you first started realizing that you had feelings towards men and dealing with that religion piece and coming out and your parents and
my gosh,
your twin sister?
Well, I realized that I was gay. Even though I wouldn't have used that word, but I had this. We all have those first experiences of sexuality coming into bloom, and for bloom is not even the right word. It's I was maybe 4 years old. And granted, I know a 4-year-old is not sexual, but all of us know this kind of strange magnetism that we experience, that we don't experience towards somebody else.
Right.
And I was that age, and there was a traveling evangelist who'd come to church, and he was holding revival meetings with all the thunder and brimstone. And he brought his family with him. He had, a dutiful little wife and daughters, and a son that just really impressed me. and he played the violin. I've always fallen for the artist. That maybe this is where it started. But I remember seeing him on the platform, and not at that age you're not thinking about the mechanics of romance, but I remember thinking I want him as like a buddy, because I remember that word because that word conveyed to me some kind of intimacy that I didn't have for anybody else. I didn't say that about my best friends in kindergarten or whenever, however old I was. There was something different about this, and you wonder what's going on as you age. Everyone's talking about the girls and. Yet you're strangely aware that at Hamrick's, the underwear aisle for the men is strangely enticing.
Just at Hamrick's?
That's where we were.
Okay.
Hamrick's, and there was no Victor's indiscretion or something to find the mall. But to that end, I remember growing up thinking, either there's real virtue in me because I'm not tempted by women, or something is different. And I kept waiting for you're prepubescent, and I kept waiting for something to happen. But I would walk by Victoria's Secret and nothing happens to me. I tried dating women and had 2 girlfriends in high school, and it just didn't click. And I remember I was maybe 12 or 13 years old. I've never told anybody this story. I was at Cracker Barrel, one of our regular haunts, and I picked up one of those old what are they called? What are they called? They're little black balls that you shake them and the out comes
Magic
out of the
8-ball.
Thank you, a Magic 8-ball. And so I asked the Magic 8-ball if I was ever going to be an out gay man.
Wow.
And damn if this thing didn't say yes. And so I'm flummoxed by the possibility. It's like, how do I navigate these texts? How do I make this work? But so I still stifled it. I was at that time I was getting ready to head into the upper years of high school, and I was thinking about Bible colleges. And I remember I had my eye on this place in Hammond, Indiana, a little tiny nut house of a place. And in their catalog was this gorgeous woman, looked like some kind of sanctified Katy Perry, and next to her was her hunk of a boyfriend. And so I thought, well, maybe if I get up to this college, I'm not going to fall for the hunk in the picture. I'm going to find some woman who's just going to somehow, miraculously, by the power of God, deliver me from this, and that's going to fix all that problem.
Gotcha.
Because at this time, I had gone through freshman year of PE, and I was terrified of myself. So I was so uncomfortable with even the thought of changing in the locker room, because you're in here with all the people who are enchanting your imagination,
right?
But you're also, it's the gay experience to be, you want to pursue these men, you also want to look like these men, and all of this crashing in on me at once, and that was sort of the high school year for me. In fact, I made an unfortunate reputation for myself as a pretty virulent homophobe. I would take to Facebook about once a year with a really awful thing to say about the gay community, and it was all overcompensating.
Wow!
And there were people in the I guess you could call it the gay community at Irwin, where I went to high school, who saw through this charade. Of course, I denied it viciously. But I tried to avoid this for a long time, and I thought this was just going to be my. And around junior year or so, I thought. Maybe senior year, I thought this isn't going away. And so my prayer then became less of change me, but then help me figure out how to live with this. I'm just going to be celibate. And eventually the weight of the secret became oppressive. And I came out, this would have been, I was in Bible college at this point, here in Western North Carolina. And at the time I had started going to First Baptist Church in Asheville. And they were the ones who, this is going to surprise a lot of listeners who may not know this, but First Baptist helped me out of the closet. Wow. Intentionally. I was on the way over to now. How I got to First Baptist is a conversation for another day. But but the point is, I was on the way over for then one of the ministers was being formed by a continuing ed institute for spiritual direction. And for those who may not know, spiritual direction is kind of like counseling, but it's less about, it's not some kind of biblical counseling in which you've got to, shock therapy and get your way over addictions and all that stuff. It's more listening to the prayer that's sort of building up inside your soul. It's much more mystical than that. So on the way over to that session, I remember praying. I mean, I was just overcome with the weight of this secret. I didn't know what to do with it. And I just needed to say it.
Yeah,
I needed to be able to vocalize it and share it with people who were capable of holding it. And I said, okay, if I'm supposed to say this to David, then Lord, you're going to have to tell me this in a clearer way than I can comprehend. So I get to the room where we're going to begin this session of spiritual direction. And David, the minister, tells me, I'm going to start with this poem. And then after that, we'll have some silence. And then we'll see where the conversation unfolds.
Oh.
And as I told you earlier, I meant to bring the copy of the poem. And in my forgetfulness, I forgot it. I hate to read off of a phone. But this comes from the German poet Rainer Maria Rilke, who composed a series of poems that he called the Book of Hours. And I'd like to read that.
Yes, please do.
I'm too alone in the world, yet not alone enough to make each hour holy. I'm too small in the world, yet not small enough to be simply in your presence, like a thing, just as it is. I want to know my own will and to move with it. And I want, in the hushed moments when the nameless draws near, to be among the wise ones or alone. I want to unfold. Let no place in me hold itself closed, for where I am closed, I am false. I want to stay clear in your sight.
So, give me a moment, please. That brought a tear to my eye because that is so real.
Yes.
And so true. And so much of what I believe a lot of us, whether we're gay or not, go through in life in trying to figure out our identity, our spirit, our soul.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that very much.
Well, thank you for receiving it and for allowing it to be shared. So I heard that, and I couldn't run from this. This was the direct answer to the prayer I made 10 minutes ago. I have no way else of seeing this. And I don't have I too have questions about the mechanics of prayer and what gets answered and what doesn't and why some things don't get answered. But I think somehow heaven saw my excessive need, a need to save my own life, and redeem this secrecy with warmth and love, and I couldn't run from it. And so began a process of critical thinking about the 6 texts in Scripture that talk about this, or that allegedly talk about same-sex relations. Each one is after something very different, I think. And prayer and hard wrestling with the fact that communities where I had worshiped as a child and as a youth wouldn't have a place for me. And then that I would have to grapple with this toward my family, whom I loved. I was not raised in a home that was violent to queer people, but I was not raised with. I didn't know how to go to turn with this. It was just not part of the paradigm.
Right.
Not part of how it was structured.
So can I stop you for just a moment? You used the word redemption, and I think that's a very important word. And what does redemption mean to you?
So it's redemption to me is rooted in healing. That is that, for me, redemption was not to redeem my sexuality. It was not to change me or to go find this, fairy tale Katy Perry at the Independent Baptist College in Indiana. That had nothing to do with it. What it was my willingness to open up the contents of my heart, even the things that scared me, to God, and to be willing to sit in the silence and let God say something about what was in my heart, not the interpretations of Scripture that have only been around for a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
And there's anxiety in that silence. You want to squirm through that. You don't know what. When you're raised to think that God's mad at you, and that you have something you always have to work on to win God's favor, to say that something in you is good. That not even an accident, but I'm comfortable saying, God put this in me. This is a gift. Sexuality is a gift. Then it's not something that that to redeem it. It's not to change it. It's to consecrate it and say, this is holy, and you offer it up to God.
Beautifully. Yeah, your words are elegant. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's move forward then. What happened then? You had that meeting and you started to realize, I need to move forward with my life.
I did. That was a hard process, and I learned to affirm myself around fully. I mean, without question. I could see Romans 1, 1 Corinthians 6, Sodom and Gomorrah, and stare them square in the face. By about a year into that conversation, I read some books and had hard conversations. So I went to college. I transferred from Bible college to Campbell University, where I then made the decision. I had to set a date, and because it was getting toxic, I had to set a time to come out to my family.
Yes.
And I remember before this, I'd gone on a retreat at a monastery in Kentucky, a place much beloved to me, and as I was driving home, that was when marriage equality became the law of the land.
Okay.
That's when this happened. And I remember feeling happy about it, but also just feeling sick because I knew that I was going to be in just circles of family and friends who just didn't know how to process this in a way that was healthy for me. Right. So around that time, I had to start setting a date. This is when you got to do this. And so a month into college, I came home. And I really wish I hadn't been so dramatic. I went to Barnes & Noble and I wrote out it's like a 3-page single-space speech. Ridiculous. Said way too much. But I sent him a text, stop what you're doing, turn off the TV. Everybody in the living room, I have something to say. And
I love it. You produced your own coming out.
Oh gosh, I did. Yeah, with the theatrics to match. I'm nothing if not theatrical. And so it went better than I feared. And it opened up a real season of fragility and, trying to figure out how to relate to each other and how to, this was, I'm grateful we had the distance. That's nothing against them or me. It's just when you process something like this, it's good to have some distance.
Yes.
So there seemed to be a measure of surprise when I told them, which surprised me. Because I thought everybody knew but me, when I was young.
I think that's common amongst a lot of people, actually. It's like, you look back, like, my high school friends knew, but they never told me. And then years later, well, we always knew. And you're like, well, why didn't you tell me? Well, it wasn't our place to tell you.
Right.
You had to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, right. It's like Glenda talking to Dorothy. You had the power all the time, my dear.
Exactly.
But so it was. I'm very proud of my family. We've had a hard time with this, as any evangelical family would. Yeah. I'm not even the evangelical circle anymore, but that's still their home. And but my family has they love all of me, and there's not any doubt in my mind about that. And they talk to me. My boyfriend has been in their home. They invite him to dinner. They ask how he is when he's not present.
Oh, wonderful.
And I think we're finally at a time where we can look at each other and know that we don't agree on this. We interpret these texts very differently. And that may be something that's always true. But at the end of the day, I think we all of us know that we found grace for each other and seeing each other as disciples, as people who are striving toward the same thing. With very different convictions and different tenets of belief, but I think we are now blessed with a measure of respect for each other. I think that has really been a vision, and we're approaching Easter now. That'll have come and gone by the time this airs, but it's been an image of resurrection.
I love that you put that, a place of grace.
Yeah,
I think that's a lot of what life is.
it is,
And
and I wish I could go back and tell just petrified Austin in college that this was going to happen.
yeah.
It would be hard, but it wouldn't be as bad as he feared. And he'd find community to endure the hard days, but that this would be what would happen later. I am grateful where we are now.
Good,
Yeah.
good. You seem very comfortable in the person that you are.
I there's a to that end. I remember I'm a part of my research as in the independent scholarship I do is centered in theology and the arts. How music, or particularly mostly literature, sort of amplifies some kind of theological claim.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learn a lot, take a lot from books, music, film. And I remember there was something I learned from The Birdcage when I saw it for the first time, 10 years ago. And I will butcher the sentence, but Robin Williams' character looks at his son and says, I spent a hell of a lot of time trying to be comfortable with who I am, and I'm not going to change that for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So the comfort I now feel within myself, and I do feel that, but differently than I did then, was I have worked too hard to be
Right.
anything else.
Right.
I came to the brink of suicide, which necessitated coming out to family.
Right.
I have grappled with text. I have looked, if I was wrong, let's say, I was still in that evangelical paradigm, and, to change your mind has grave consequence if you're wrong. I worked through that, and I did the hard work, and nobody's going to change it. Right. You can't, when you work that hard for it, you can't let somebody rain on your parade.
No, you can't. We're going to take a break here, but I want to point out, you said you watched The Birdcage 10 years ago. I'm not sure when The Birdcage came out, but I just think it's very interesting that a younger generation has seen that and drawn something from that, even as old as that film may be.
Yeah.
That it still resonates today.
That film
so
is more
ways.
resonant, more relevant now than it was than it was then.
I appreciate you saying that.
Maybe I shouldn't say that as someone who's born in '94, right when it came out. May have been '96, but that is one of the treasures of the film canon to me.
I agree completely. I agree completely. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about how Austin moved into his ministry and where his life is moving now and how it's shaping the queerness of him.
Wonderful.